I'm excited to chat with you because I love this reimagined version of I Am the Highway. Let's start though at the beginning. Who are some of the musical influences you had when you were growing up?
Um, I guess I'm a child of the early 2000s, but I think I was influenced more by music that was 10 to 15 years, 20 years older. So I was into guitar when I was like a kid. And so Ozzy, Metallica were some of my first influences. And then that kind of gravitated towards Soundgarden, Pearl Jam,
An
um,
audio slave now.
Audio Slave. Yeah, like I said, when I was 13, I heard that album for the first time, and it was like this amazing moment of anticipation. At the time, I was reading Rolling Stone magazine and kind of some early internet blogs about the supergroup forming. And so when the album finally came out, I was extremely excited about it, and I think listened to it on repeat for probably several months.
What inspired you then to reimagine I Am the Highway Now from Audio Slave?
Well, actually, I was just playing around with some chords and I started singing the lyrics. It was a very serendipitous kind of thing. And I hadn't really listened to that song in a long time. The meaning of songs and the way that they come across and the way that we react to them is changes over time, obviously, and the circumstances and the projection that we have onto songs. And I remember trying to listen to some of the Soundgarden and Audio Slave and Cornell solo stuff after he died, and it just changed for me for whatever reason. And yeah, I was looking into recording some covers and just happened to stumble on this one. It was really kind of a coincidence. And then yes, it's kind of a different it's like it's harmonized in a different way, and the timing of everything is different. And so I remember when I played it, I was like, I listened to the original, and I was like, wow, this is so different. But you know, I was for the first time in a long time, I delved into the meaning of the song and connected with it. And I felt really good about recording it.
It's a beautiful iteration as well. There's these acoustic moments and you make it so soft. How did you sort of piece it together when you were going about it? What was your process for reimagining it and making it your own in the end?
Well, at first it was just like a classical kind of finger picked thing that I was playing, and it was very much kind of this perfect cadence um, harmonization thing that was kind of working in this really like low register baritone vocal thing, and then after I recorded it, I was like, okay, the chorus is working really well. I need some kind of a melodic hook to kind of like tie it all together. And then we were kind of dealing with the bridge, which was originally a guitar solo. I just happened to have a classical guitar sitting around, and so I played with. I was trying to figure out with my producer as well, kind of how to address the bridge section because the solo was a little bit like an electric guitar solo didn't really feel like the right thing necessarily, and I just happened to have the classical guitar there, and so I just played that thing, and it just worked. It just created that whole kind of nostalgia vibe, and I was like, okay, it's one of those things where you throw enough paint, something's gonna stick, and that was what stuck.
It sounds like you're very hands-on though when it comes to the production as well. very specific about the sound you want.
Well, you try a lot of that's one of the advantages to modern technology and just the way that we're able to record now. It's creates so many different opportunities to experiment with things. You know, if you're like a band in the 70s or Led Zeppelin or something like that, you basically make the choices before the the thing is recorded. I mean, you can there are some things you can add to it, of course, but you get the vibe pretty much down, and then that's what you have. Nowadays you can swap things out, and it's just like the imagination can really run wild.
Yeah, that's a very moment to moment thing because then somebody discovers, okay, you can add this sound here through, whatever machine they have, or you can add a little bit of drum solo here, and then they grab it from this file to this file, whereas, it may not have been even a thought in your mind. As you said, you have to be very specific, but you had to be very specific back then with your vision, with nothing changed. But it sounds like you have quite a say in the music you make, which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, I think that it's an interesting thing, and I was thinking about kind of my influences and how every musician has or had influences before like the modern era. And essentially, if you're trying to be a musician or like your first influences are probably the things that your parents listen to. And the second influences are like what's on the radio. And then maybe you buy some music and listen to those same records or CDs or cassettes, whatever era you're in, over and over again. And that's how you get inspired, right? Like you're basically an amalgamation or a result of all of these specific influences that your circumstances have led you to. Now we have everything at the tip of our fingers, and that it goes for every type of art, right? Um, and so now we have the privilege of just being able to draw from all these different things. And so, it's an interesting thing. So then you take something like "I Am the Highway," which is a very specific result of different movements and different cultural themes, and because there was so much going on, like the Chris Cornell thing and the Soundgarden thing was a direct reaction to the glam stuff in the 80s, and that kind of the reaction to that was the grunge movement, and the Rage Against the Machine thing was like this political social commentary thing that came up and was like these heavy pentatonic riffs and these chants that were going on, and the merging of those two things, and now you take something like that, say, okay, obviously, like it's a different type of vocal than Chris Cornell, who is one of the greatest rock singers of all time. Um, so it's like a much more like intimate, understated thing, and then like I have a whole tapestry of possibilities. And so it was a very interesting exercise.
We talked a little bit about your production side of the music you make. When it comes to music that you write yourself, is there a specific process you have? Does it happen the same way every time?
Um, I would not say that it happens the same way every time. There's definitely something inexplicable that happens when an amazing song comes into my field. Sometimes I think that the songs are their own kind of energy or entity or however you want to look at it. And they have a life of their own. For me, like sometimes I'll find a melody, it'll just come to me, or something on the guitar, the piano, and then usually the lyrics come second. Like I find the vibe first, like the mood, the energy, the spirit, the feeling of the song, and then I'll go into certain aspects of my personal life, certain aspects of what's going on, what's in my mind, because ultimately that's what writing songs, that's what creating art is taking what's inside of us and putting it out into the world, into some kind of a canvas, something that is more universal.
With I Am the Highway Out Now, is this a prelude to an EP or an album in the works?
Well, I Am the Highway will be my seventh release since February 14th, or so I'm sorry, February 21st. Um, and I've been pretty committed to releasing a song every 2 to 6 weeks. Um, and this is part of an album that will be released in its entirety and probably the first half of January.
All right. There are plans to go on a tour here coming up as well then?
We'll see. Um, I'm kind of creating the blueprint of the live production that I'm looking to bring to the audience, and probably after the album is released, we'll start playing some local regional shows, and then take it further out.
You had quite a collection of instruments, and I'm so sorry to hear that so many of them got taken from you. Is there one that you miss the most, or one that you've reclaimed that holds a special place in your heart?
Well, um, yeah, so I lost all of my possessions actually in the recent fires in California, Southern California. Um, and it was an interesting moment when, sitting there, I had to kind of reconcile the fact that all of my things that I had accumulated over my whole life were gone. A recording studio, all my instruments, except for a 1973 Dobro. And so if you see a lot of my content, you can see that this resonator guitar is in a lot of my videos. And interestingly, people have been commenting, they've been like, you use the resonator as a prop, but it's not in the song. Like, well, it's because that's the only guitar that I have. Um, but actually, the fires were a big inspiration and a big impetus for me to start releasing this music and to do the artist thing full time. So I got to a crossroads where I'd been doing this for a long time and never had fully committed to doing a personal project like this full time. And it was kind of like, if not now, then when? And, it was a starting over point. Now, as far as the instruments go, I replaced a lot of instruments. Um, there were some that had certain sentimental value, like there was a Telecaster that my dad gave me for my 12th or 13th birthday. My parents took me to a Rolling Stones concert. I saw Keith Richards playing the Telecaster, and I had to have one. He bought it for me, and it was like my best friend all through high school, and I still had it. I had another guitar that was signed by all the original members of Van Halen. It was like a Eddie Van Halen signature guitar, also that I got when I was a teenager. Um, and so those were kind of sentimental things, but the truth is that they were sitting in cases. And so there was a whole philosophical realization that I just needed to move forward, and there were memories, and they're no longer here, but on a day-to-day basis didn't make a huge difference in my life.
Sounds like a great concept for an album. Well, do you have any collaborations coming up here in the works? Maybe anything you could tease for the upcoming album?
I have um, several collaborations in the works, probably not for this album cycle. Um, I have a second album that I'm almost complete with actually now. And well, it might be a continuation of the first album. the way that albums go these days, um, the whole genre or music in general has been redefined. So, you know, is it an EP in addition to the album? I'm not exactly sure, but there's definitely going to be a few more covers in the same vein as "I'm the Highway." Um, there might be one from Red Hot Chili Peppers coming up at some point. Um, and some really vibey kind of Halloween themed music coming out in the fall. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of those things. Music is so seasonal.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at a collection of like a dozen songs, you're just like, this has to come out in the summer and this has to come out in the winter and all of these things. And it's just music is all about vibe. And I'm not going to release like a solo acoustic thing, in June.
Fireflies happen to be one of my personal favorites of the recent songs you've released. Do you have one that holds a special place in your heart?
um, I love that song. And I originally started writing it in a place called Nevada City, which is one of my favorite towns in the country. And I just remember playing it on a Nashville tuned guitar, and it just sounded like fireflies. It was like it just the sound reminded me of the nostalgia of sitting on a porch somewhere in the East Coast and looking at fireflies and trying to capture them in a jar. And yeah, I was really lucky to team up with Isla June on that one. It was one of those things where I recorded the vocal, and the first time I heard it, I said I was like, this needs to be a duet, and the beginning needs a female vocal. It has that sentimentality, and so that was definitely yeah, I really enjoyed the way that song came out, and all of them. I mean, um, the one that the place that resonates with me the most is Bombay Beach, and that song, and I just felt really artistically inspired when I went to Bombay Beach for the first time, and so I wrote a lot of the songs there. It's just a place where you're literally, figuratively, metaphorically at the end of the road, and all the influences that normally dictate the way that we think, the way that we feel, who we are kind of eroded in that space. And we have the space and the capacity to be fully ourselves and fully creative. And I'm not sure exactly how I resonated with that place, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people do, but that was one of the universal or one of the fundamental themes of my songwriting and my album. It's just reminding myself and reminding the audience who listens to my music what it means to be human in an age when that meaning is becoming less and less clear, and dealing with our own kind of existential questions.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the beautiful music you continue to make?
I would just like to say that I appreciate the support. I am humbled by a lot of the reception that I've gotten since I started releasing this music. I'm encouraged and just emboldened to continue. And I'm really excited for everyone who's been following my journey to see what I'm coming up with now, and to continue to follow, and the stuff that I'm recording now and going to put out. I'm extremely excited about, and I just want to thank everyone for being part of this journey.